Thank you for taking a few minutes to watch this September 11th edition of The World from A to Z. Today's show begins with a timeline, an explanation of what happened on this date 24 years ago and why it was so impactful on the United States. It was a clear Tuesday in the American Northeast. One of the biggest stories in the news that day was that renowned athlete Michael Jordan was coming out of retirement to re-enter the National Basketball League. Then, there was breaking news that a plane had crashed into one of the Twin Towers, the skyscrapers of the World Trade Center in New York City. That was at 8:46 a.m. It was American Airlines Flight 11, and the media didn't have a lot of details at first. Some thought it was a smaller plane, not a passenger jet, and that it might have been an accident. But 17 minutes later, United Airlines Flight 175 crashed into the South Tower of the World Trade Center, and the American media and the American people suddenly knew something horrific was taking place. At an elementary school where he was visiting students that day, U.S. President George W. Bush was told America was under attack. He made a statement at 9:30 a.m. calling it a national tragedy and asking Americans to join him in a moment of silence. 7 minutes later, a third passenger jet crashed, this time into the Pentagon, the headquarters of the American military in Arlington, Virginia. It was American Airlines Flight 77. Shortly afterward, all airline flights were grounded in the United States, but another plane that had been hijacked was still in the air. Just before 10 a.m., another scene of catastrophic destruction in New York. The South Tower of the World Trade Center collapsed from the damage and fire caused by the second plane crash. Within 5 minutes, there were reports of a fourth crash, United Airlines Flight 93 in a field in Shanksville, Pennsylvania. And as the media tried to organize all of the information they were getting, while people gathered in front of TVs in homes, gyms, offices, colleges, in locations around the world, the North Tower of the World Trade Center crumbled. There was confusion and chaos in the streets of New York City. There were also scores of accounts of heroism, from the first responders who rushed into the burning buildings to the civilians who walked each other to hospitals or homes, the caregivers and comforters who grieved together, to the passengers who resisted the hijackers on the doomed planes. 19 terrorists had committed the deadliest attack on American soil. Authorities don't know the exact number of victims of the 9/11 attacks. Officially, the death toll stands at 2,977, more than the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor in 1941 that led to America entering World War II. President Bush said he felt the September 11th attacks amounted to a declaration of war when he heard about the crash at the Pentagon. In his address to the nation that night, he said the U.S., its friends and allies would stand together to win the war against terrorism.
Tonight I ask for your prayers for all those who grieve. None of us will ever forget this day, yet we go forward to defend freedom and all that is good and just in our world.
In the days in the investigation that followed, it became clear the attacks had been carried out by Al-Qaeda, a group widely described as an Islamist terrorist organization. In an address to Congress on September 20th, President Bush said other countries were either with the U.S. or with the terrorists, a warning to the nation of Afghanistan, whose rulers were allowing Al-Qaeda to live and train in the southern Asian country. A U.S.-led alliance of several nations launched attacks on Afghanistan that began the next year and led to America's longest war.
Two of the other significant events that occurred on this date take us back to the 18th century. More than 200 years before Lin-Manuel Miranda brought a singing, rapping Alexander Hamilton to Broadway, the real-life Hamilton was appointed to the position of U.S. Secretary of the Treasury on September 11, 1789. His political career started when Hamilton was an aide to then-General George Washington in the American Revolution. He also served as a member of the Continental Congress and was a prolific writer who penned the bulk of the Federalist Papers, which are still influential in American government today. Hamilton was killed in a duel with then-Vice President Aaron Burr in 1804 and is the face of the current U.S. $10 bill. Also on this date, in 1792, the massive French blue diamond, now known as the Hope Diamond, was stolen. The rock, once owned by King Louis XVI, was taken from the French government in a looting spree during the French Revolution. It's not clear exactly where the stone went in the years following, but researchers believe the diamond was likely smuggled to London and recut to its current size, 45.54 carats. It was sold several times, winding up in America. The stone was donated in the 1950s to the Smithsonian and is on display at the National Museum of Natural History.
A world of knowledge. What is the only country whose capital contains a national park? Kenya, Tanzania, Ecuador, United States. The only national park inside a capital is Nairobi National Park, and you'll find it in the African nation of Kenya.
Which is why you can see unique scenes like this with wildlife silhouetted against a bustling cityscape. But while Kenya is our next stop today, it's not for a story about wildlife. It's about how a simple contraption warmed by sunlight is helping people cook.
Benta Achian is preparing breakfast, eggs and porridge. All she needs is some sunlight to cook them up. The sun is Earth's most abundant energy source. Solar-powered ovens like this offer an alternative to traditional cooking fuels like firewood and charcoal, which create a lot of smoke.
I used to use firewood for a longer time. I also realized that firewood gives us some problems, like lung problems.
Firewood also requires a lot of trees to be cut down, contributing to deforestation. Around 67% of Kenya's population relies on wood and charcoal to cook, and in sub-Saharan Africa as a whole, about 90% of people do. Achian isn't the only one switching to solar. This Nairobi street food vendor says it saves him money on fuel, which boosts his profits. Entrepreneur Carolyn Olang develops solar-powered ovens locally for about $35 each and currently sells them for $50. Olang says the benefits of solar power are that it's free, doesn't produce smoke, and it's better for the environment. But there are drawbacks. Solar ovens cook slower, and you can't use them during rainy season or when the sun isn't out.
But when you consider that in Africa, more often than not, it is sunny Africa, I think it's a good alternative.
Solar ovens are simple contraptions. Just set the box up outside, place some food inside, and close the lid. The thermal energy from the sun's rays are reflected and collected into the box, and through heat transfer, cook the meal.
Three of the schools we heard from recently at worldatozorg include Fred Thomas Middle. From Lewis, Delaware, it's Mrs. Vandemark's class we're recognizing today. Great to see you in the first state. Just one state west of there is Maryland, home of the Wildcats at Arundel High School. Mr. Daubert's class, thank you for watching from Gambrels. And we've got the Trojans online today from West Marshall Middle School. It's in State Center, Iowa, where Mrs. Holmes's class is amazing.
Take a look at how scientists turned this flat sheet into a waving, wobbling, wriggling, walking robot. According to a study detailed in the journal Nature Communications, researchers outfitted this flexible sheet with a dense network of more than 300 heat-sensitive electrical sensors that, when heated, react by bending and then resetting. This allows the robotic sheet to have precisely controlled movements, such as moving across surfaces and grasping and lifting objects. More research is needed, but the engineers believe designing robots like this could have a range of valuable uses, from exploring environments to improving smart healthcare. So, needless to say, this wriggling robotic oddity is definitely making waves.
And that will be the only pun we'll have today, out of reverence for this date and its history. We'll leave you with some images of remembrance related to 9/11, and we're grateful to have spent part of this day with you. I'm Azuz for The World from A to Z.